moments in our service always seem to be not nearly enough. Because every fiber of who we are and the freedoms we celebrate here in America today are because of men and women across this land that have chosen to stand and to bear arms and to take a stand against those that would come and defile us. I remember reading or hearing, it was brought to my attention. Many of you will remember moms and dads, husbands and wives, friends and neighbors were called to active duty. Most of them had been training and doing jobs in the military. And within a 24-hour notice, they were called up, were put on planes, and were sent to Saudi Arabia, parachuted out in the desert. And there they sat for better than 5 months. Along with all of the other Americans, I'm like, what in the world? And then I heard our commander-in-chief when he made this statement. They weren't ready to fight. Most of those men and women had never been in physical battle like they were being prepared. He said we had to put them in that desert and leave them there long enough that they were ready to kill the conqueror. Preacher, what does all this have to do with us in church today? He had to change their atmosphere. They had got on planes and kissed a wife goodbye, and kissed children goodbye, loved ones goodbye. They weren't ready to fight. They had been trained. They had been taught. They knew the procedure to fight, but they weren't ready mentally. And in the church world and in the realm of spirituality, there are times when we pray for a change of atmosphere because it is required of us. But I am persuaded that God the Father, in His perfect wisdom, allows things to come our way because He knows we need a change of atmosphere. But He knows we're not ready to fight. He knows that we're not ready to win that battle with the enemy of our soul. So He allows things to come our way that are not pleasant, that are not good. And if any of us had a voice and a vote, we would say, no, I don't want that. But God knows. Every one of us in this building today have experienced a love, thank you, Scott, that only God knows. A love that will allow me and you to go and to do and to process and to live through things that we would readily tap out on. But God knows if our atmosphere is going to change, then we have to be prepared for the battle. I believe God is saying, wake up, mighty men of valor. Wake up, mighty men of war. And I want to take you this morning on a little journey, and I'm very mindful of the time. I promise you, in just a few moments, you're going to be home. Somebody say, amen. Change your atmosphere. Wake up, mighty men of war. Heavenly Father, you know the task that is before us today, and I can't do it. But you can. In the next few moments, and I don't mean minutes, I mean moments. Holy Spirit, I'm inviting you to drop into our spirit man something that will change our atmosphere and create in us a desire for whatever you want in us. In Jesus' name I pray. Job chapter 3 and verse 9 says these words. Proclaim this among the nations. Prepare for war. Rouse the warriors. Let all the fighting men draw near and attack. You see, one may ask what this story has to do with changing your atmosphere. I want to take you on a parallel this morning, all the way over from Joel to Luke chapter 7. And I want to invite you for just a few moments on a little journey of a lady. Luke chapter 7, verse 37 and 38. Let's begin there. When a woman who had lived a sinful life in that town learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisees' house, she brought an alabaster jar of perfume. Now, King James says box. Let me just explain to you very quickly that alabaster was named after a city. And there were precious stones there that were called alabaster stones. It was a container. That's all it was. There's been so much emphasis put on the alabaster. I'm going to use a word here just for sake. Granite. Now, if you go to Mount Airy, North Carolina, there is a granite field that sits outside of Mount Airy about 5 miles. They say that granite field runs 5 miles deep into the center core of the earth. I'm just telling you what they tell me. I hadn't been. I don't know. They tell us on the tour, when you go to this granite field, there are machinery setting up there bigger than this church, chiseling granite, slabs of granite away from this granite field. I saw that with my own eyes. They say they have been drilling granite out of this granite field since the early 70s. They say when the astronauts, now some of you quit believing me because you don't even believe that man's gone to the moon. But they say when the astronauts leave outer space that they lock in, NASA locks in on that granite field. That in outer space, that granite field is their marker to find the earth and come back to its orbit. Just telling you what he told me. Pretty impressive. If you go to Mount Airy, North Carolina, everything up there is made out of granite. It is a useless material to them because it is plenteous. Now, if you want a piece of granite to go in a window in a fellowship hall, they're really proud of that stuff. Okay? It was an alabaster box. If you notice, the story is not about the box, the container. Though it was precious, the story is about what is in the box, which is the oil. I don't say that other word. I'm like Brother Terry with the foyer. I don't ever get that other word right, that ornament word. That ornament. That it ain't an ornament that hangs on a tree. That stuff in the box. Okay? Now I want to take you here. When a woman who had lived a sinful life in that town learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisees' house, she brought an alabaster jar of perfume. And as she stood behind him, again, an interesting step. Because the custom was in that day, they didn't come in and sit down in chairs. Okay? They came in and they knelt at a table. And their feet were out behind them. The direction of everything that was in front of them consumed them. That was behind them had no place in the room. the servants worked from behind them. His servants were not invited to the table. Don't throw a stone at me now, especially not a granite stone. But women were not invited to the table. It was a man's world during that time. Okay? Women were... Well, we're still good over here. Okay. I'll tackle you. Women were property. Women represented prosperity. The number of wives you had represented your wealth. I ain't getting no brownie points with the women this morning. I'm giving you a history lesson. Don't hold me accountable for history. Don't hate my flag, okay? It's a history lesson. The Bible said, and she stood behind him at his feet, weeping. She began to wet his feet with her tears. And guys, I'm going to tell you something. I don't think that was an intention. She walked into a place that she was not supposed to be. Into a room where women were not allowed unless they were served. And she stood behind the presence of the majesty of Almighty God, came into the aura of God the Father through His Son. Standing behind Him, being overtaken with the emotion of the presence of a living God. And her tears would come, drops on her face that fell from it. In coming to her senses, she readily saw that her tears had hit his. Then she wiped them with her hair. She hadn't come into this room to serve. There is our distinctive clue, because a server always has something draped over their arm. Because they are prepared for things to go wrong. They're prepared to clean up. They're prepared to serve. She had nothing to wipe her tears with. It declares to us that she was not there for the only reason she would have been permitted in that room, and that was to serve. In the moment, in realizing that her tears had fell on Jesus' feet, then, grasping for straws, she grabs her hair and begins to wipe the feet of Jesus. Kissed them. There's a lesson here. And poured perfume on them. While this is going on, the Master is at the table, watching the faces of those that are around him, hearing the whispers. And you know what they're saying? If he was truly a prophet, he would know this woman. This is an ungodly, unclean woman. And yet he has allowed her to first be in here. She has no right here. He should have reprimanded her and put her out of this room. And yet he did not, but yet he has allowed this mockery to go on in our presence. Not only defiling himself, but defiling our brotherhood. Now get this. This is the sanctuary. We come into this place on given times for a gathering of the brethren, which is now included with our culture, the ladies. This is a solitary place of worshiping the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. I want you to hear what Jesus declares in their presence. Luke 7:44. Then he turned, as for hearing the whispers of Bible said then he turned towards the woman. Had not even paid her any attention. Now, I don't know about Jesus, but I know about Eddie. And if water hits my feet, it gets my attention. If you put your raunchy hair, forgive me, if you put your raunchy hair on my feet, somebody gonna get mule kicked. Okay? The Bible said he'd not even paid her any attention. She didn't stop there. The Bible said she broke her alabaster box and began to pour this perfume. The aroma had filled the room. There was no doubt by now of what was going on. The tears may have gone unnoticed. Maybe she had wiped away the water without anybody noticing. But my friend, when she broke the alabaster box, everybody in the room noticed. Then Jesus turned towards the woman and said, "Son, is this not interesting? He don't even address her. He turns towards the woman. He looks in her direction, and then he speaks to Simon, the master of the house. And he said to Simon, do you see this woman?" What kind of question is that? She's come into his house, entered into a room that she didn't have no business being, doing some ungodly, unspokenable things. And then he says, "Hey, Simon, have you seen this woman right here? I came into your house." Notice what he said. "You did not give me any water for my feet." Now, we get that the heritage and the lineage of washing feet. We Pentecostals, it's still permitted in our denomination. In the bylaws of our denomination, it is that we are to partake in the Lord's Supper, and it is permitted that we can wash one another's feet. Now, I know in olden days they'd done that pretty regularly. Well, the custom during this time was if somebody came into your house. When somebody comes to your house, now what do? If it's in the wintertime, you offer to take their coat. Can I take your coat? And then the next thing you do, you offer them something. What do? Can I get you something to drink? Can I get you something? It is the common courtesy of inviting people in. You know, there are people that you invite into your foyer, but you really don't have no intentions of them going any further. And you're not going to be rude, but you invite them in out of the pouring rain, but you're not going no further. This is as far as you're going right here, okay? I remember a couple of years ago, Tammy and I went to McKee Foods, one of the bakeries of Little Debbie, and I walked in, I smelled those honey buns cooking, and we went over there, and I've been a distributor now. At that time, been a distributor for 19 years. I figured I was going to walk right up to the place, man. I'm going to check this place out. Well, I roll up in there, and they got this bodyguard standing there. I don't know what he's protecting, but Debbie, ain't nobody getting Debbie. I can just tell you that. Walk in there, and he looks like Andre the Giant standing there. And I began to tell him who I am. You know, I'm 5040. That's my AR number, accounts receivable number. That tells them everything they need to know about me. When I talk to the bakery, I don't tell them my name. I say 5040. Then I got to give them the last four of my Social Security. Them folks don't play. Every Monday morning when I call them, I got to give them that AR number. Then I give them the last four of my Social Security number. Then she calls me by name. She don't know me because she calls me Edward. Then she wants to have a conversation with me. She just invited me into her foyer. I'm not going into her living room and sit down, okay? That's all that is. I walked up to this guy and I said, "Hey, me and my wife are on vacation." I said, "We saw the factory. We decided we'd come by and see what we could see." And he said, "You're looking at it." You've gone far as you're going. He said, "I've been working here 17 years and I've never been inside of this factory." I said, "Man, y'all take this stuff pretty serious." You see, some of us are guarding things so sacred because this is the house of the Lord. And this is our place that we come in and we do with the Master. Because we have to do communion with Him. We have to fellowship with Him. We've come to break bread with the Master. That's why we show up here on Sunday. And Jesus looks at the master of the house and he says these words, "You did not give me water for my feet." what is important about that is during that day, you walked in sandal foot even if you had anything, and when you got there, your feet were dirty. They were parched, they were tired. And so the general custom was you brought your servant, the lowest guy on the pay scale, in, and they washed your guests' feet. That simply said to them, you're welcome here. That's the taking of the coat. That is the offering of something to drink. Okay? You did not give me water for my feet, but she wet my feet with the tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss. During that time, the customary was, and there's still some folks still do that. I don't really handle that real well. I don't like men kissing on me. I'm just leaving that there. Any of you got the unction? Justin or Bruce, these guys, I just don't like for nobody. Justin said I could nominate him to take the flag, but he ain't kissing me. I mean, it was a holy kiss. They come in and they kiss, on this cheek and on that cheek, and it was the customary of identifying that you are a person of great respect, and we honor you here in this place. Are you listening? He said, you did not give me a kiss. But this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. My feet. Then he says, you did not put oil on my head. There again. If you were great, Lord, I'm talking about that occasion when special guests come and the fine china comes out. I get nervous at my house if the fine china comes out. Now, most of the time, Scott, I've known it for 3 or 4 days ahead of time, but we're preparing for that china to come out. Now, before any of y'all go to my house and break in and steal my china, our fine china came from Piggly Wiggly during a grocery giveaway years ago. That's where we got it. Hey, lay it on me right there, everybody. We got the whole set. Had to buy so many groceries to get certain pieces. Don't come to my house and break in and steal my Piggly Wiggly stuff, okay? Go to somebody else's house. Them butlers over there, they got that good china. Go somewhere else. When the fine china comes out, that signifies somebody of great importance is coming here, and we're really putting out our best, okay? We're rolling out the red carpet for these folks, okay? Now, he said, you didn't put oil on my head. You see, the average guy could come over and they'd wash his feet. Okay? Y'all come eat with us. Well, you know what that means? Y'all gonna eat what we eat. I had some folks get really upset with me here a couple years ago because I'd offered them cold bologna sandwiches and didn't come through. I thought they were going to skin me. I'm going to make good on that promise. I'm talking about you come on in and eat what I'm eating. Whatever I'm eating, that's what we're eating. Okay? But when you put oil on somebody's head, you've done brought out the fine china and you said, you know what, you really matter here. You're somebody of great importance. And we have put out our very best. She had perfume on me. Now, guys, I want to tell you something. Sometimes we get so familiar with the presence of God that we don't make no big deal about it. I wish y'all could have been here when Wendy opened up Sunday school this morning. I asked her that she get into my notes. Because Wendy made a statement. Wendy, how comfortable are you with telling me? Wendy said she went to a ladies' conference yesterday. She had been invited to come and speak. By the way, show up when God gives you an invitation. She shared with us today a pregnant lady got saved yesterday. That's two for one. Amen. That's two. She said she used the analogy that I use almost every Sunday morning about raising the hand and focusing on the hand and waving goodbye. And she said she was amazed at how they absorbed that because it was fresh and it was new and they had to hurry. It become a revelation. But in here, we hear about looking for more. We hear about raising hands and believing God for the impossible. Do you know what Jesus was saying to Simon? You have become so accustomed to my presence. You have become so expecting of me that you failed to do any of the common, customary things of welcoming me. When I read this story, all about the Americans, today we're honoring for just a moment in time our veterans. But here in America, we've become so unappreciative of the freedoms and the rights that we have to be called an American. And guys, I'm going to be the first one to tell you I don't have a right to say anything other than thank you. Because I've never put on the American soldier. I've never gone through what those guys, thank you, have gone through. I don't really even have a right to have a voice in America. But because of what they stood for and what they believed in, they gave me a right to voice my opinion. There are a lot of things I hear people saying, I don't agree with it and I don't want to hear it, but they have a right because of the American soldier to voice that opinion. But here in America, we become so accustomed to everything that we have every day that a soldier can walk right by us and we'll let him buy his own lunch. I'm talking about a man and a woman in military suit. You know they're a soldier, much less a guy rolling around in a wheelchair with a sign on his back that says veteran. And you can look at him and tell he's starved to death. We'll go right on up in Chick-fil-A and get our sandwich and forget about him. Why don't the government take care of him? Why don't you take care of him? It's good preaching right there, Brother Eddie. I want to tell you something. Simon and those guys sitting at that table have become so accustomed to the presence of God that they didn't even do that was necessary. Wake up, church! Have we become so accustomed to the fact that on a Wednesday night or a Sunday morning we can walk into the house of God and enter into His gates and worship the King of Kings that we don't even count it an honor anymore? Are you angry, preacher? No, I'm not angry. I'm hurt for my Savior. That we'll roll up in here on a Sunday morning and act like it really don't even matter that the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords has made Himself available to us. And I'll sing if I feel like singing. I'll worship if I feel like worshiping. I'll preach if I feel like preaching. You ain't need to ask me to teach because I ain't doing that to start with. I want to tell you today, I don't want us to ever get to the place that we take God so for granted that He is put on a back burner in our house. I don't want Him to come by Autry Mill Road and say, you know what, I don't believe I'll go in Shiloh today because they can care less whether I'm there or not. Will you stand here, please? I was going to put it off. I printed it and I said, no, I won't have time. I was going to put it off, but you know what? I can't put it off. Just stay right there, Sam. Preacher, you're a little strange. I know it. How many of y'all know the Duke? Oh, John Wayne.
Yeah.
Every little boy's icon. I never seen a man sit taller in the saddle. He was the greatest of greats. John Wayne was an American legend. He was a hero in every little boy's eyes. I want to read something. Before John Wayne passed away, most of you know John Wayne as an actor. You may not know what happened to him before he died, but this is the story. Robert Schuler's teenage daughter, Cindy, was in a motorcycle accident. and had to give her leg to amputation. John Wayne is a big fan of Robert Schuller. He heard that Dr. Schuller say on one of his programs that his daughter had been in an accident and she had had to have her leg amputated. John Wayne wrote a note to her saying, "Dear Cindy, sorry to hear about your accident. Hope you will be all right. Signed, John Wayne." The note was delivered to her, and she decided that she wanted to write John Wayne another reply. She wrote, "Dear Mr. Wayne," I'd have wrote Dear John, but just saying. "Dear Mr. Wayne, I got your note. Thanks for writing me. I like you very much. I am going to be all right because Jesus is going to help me, Mr. Wayne. Do you know Jesus? I sure hope you know Jesus, Mr. Wayne, because I cannot imagine heaven being complete without John Wayne being there. I hope if you don't know Jesus that you will give your heart to Jesus right now. See you in heaven." She signed her name, Cindy. She had just put that letter in an envelope, sealed it, and written across the front of it, John Wayne. When a visitor came into her room to see her, he said to her, "What are you doing?" She said, "Well, I just wrote a letter to John Wayne, but I don't know how I'm going to get it to him." He said, "That's funny. I am going to have dinner with John Wayne tonight at the Newport Club down at the Newport Beach. Give it to me and I'll give it to him." She gave him the letter and he put it in his coat pocket. There were 12 of them that night sitting around the table for dinner. They were laughing and cutting up, and the guys happened to reach in his pocket and felt the letter and remembered. John Wayne was seated at the end of the table. The guy took the letter out and said, "Hey, dude, I was in Schuller's daughter's room today, and she wrote you a letter and wanted me to give it to you." They passed it down to John Wayne, and he opened it. They kept on laughing and cutting up, and someone happened to look down at John Wayne, and he was crying. One of them said, "Hey, dude, what in the world is the matter?" He said, "Can't you hear him saying it? I want to read you this letter." And he read it. Then he began to weep. He folded it and he put it in his pocket. And he pointed to the man that delivered it. And he said to him, "You go tell that little girl right now that in this restaurant right here, John Wayne gives his heart to Jesus. And I will see her in heaven." 3 weeks later, John Wayne dies. I can't help you understand this morning enough that we're in a battle. And there is an enemy that is seeking to kill, steal, and destroy everybody that you come into contact with. But God has called you into His environment, sitting at the table every Sunday and Wednesday night at the feet of Jesus. And have we become so accustomed to the presence of God that we don't even acknowledge Him? Are we really looking for Him? Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we need you, God, like we've never needed you before. We desire your presence. I thank you for the men and women that don the uniform and are American soldiers, those that have paid the supreme price, and those that are here with us today that we're able to honor. And I thank you for everything that they've ever done. We are a great nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. But God, there's a bigger picture going on here in America. And it is the fact that we Americans have become so immune to the presence of God that we no longer even give you notice. You come into our dwellings weekly daily, hourly, moment by moment. We fail to honor you by welcoming you into our midst. God, I mean for this to rattle our cages today, that we go out of this place reminded of the efforts and the tribute to the American soldier and all that they've done for us, and to remember that we owe them, but as well to remember today that there are men and women that we're coming into contact with every day that need Jesus. Father, I ask for forgiveness today. Publicly, openly, I ask you to forgive this pastor. If I've ever come into service and been so preoccupied by all that was going on that I failed to miss the aura of Almighty God, I apologize to you first and foremost, and then I apologize to the church. And I say to us as believers today, have we become so accustomed to the presence of God that He's in our midst and we don't even know it? Could it be that He just sends a sinner by, a woman of ill repute, to walk into our assembly and to say, Jesus really matters today? Lord, do you really matter to me? Church, does He really matter to you this morning? Does He matter in your home? Does He matter in your life? Does He matter in your automobile? Let me end with Luke 7:48. Then Jesus said to her, the only time that He's even spoken to her, He's done nothing but looked at her, and He's talked to Simon and those guys. Then Jesus said to her, your sins are forgiven. I thought about how I was going to say I was sorry to God today. And you know what He said to me? He said, son, your sins are already forgiven. But then after He says that, you know what He said, Brother Jimmy? He said, now go and sin no more. Don't ever let another Sunday come by where you just drag in and drag out and drag off. Worship the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. However you worship Him, you make sure you worship Him. You make sure you pour water over His feet. You make sure that you bless Him in whatever way you can bless Him. You're here today and you don't know Him. He's crying for you. He's saying, I came down on Tree Mill Road for you today. Come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. You know Him today, worship Him. Don't allow Him just to be part of your life. You let Him be your life. King of Kings, Lord of Lords, Master of it all. Thank you, Lord. I want to ask us to close a little differently. There's several people that are depending on us this morning. Little 8-year-old boy. Hey, he needs a miracle. We heard about it Wednesday night in Ryder's class. We're declaring healing over his life. Believing God. Woody Hall. He needs a miracle. Miss Betty. She's not here down soon. She's with him. He's in a, as far as I know, still in a coma.
Yes, he is.
That's her son. We need to believe God for a miracle. Preacher, you didn't call my name. There's a God in heaven that knows. Evan, his mom and daddy needs a miracle. And heaven needs a miracle. Katie's mama needs a miracle. house needs a miracle. Leah's dad needs a miracle. God needs a miracle. You need a miracle? There's a God in heaven that knows what you have need of even before you ask. But the preacher didn't call my name. But God called your name. And he said, ask whatsoever you will in my name, and it shall be done unto us. I want to ask Brother Linwood if he'll come today. I want to ask him to pray the prayer of faith as we dismiss.